Everybody, Matthew Cook, the Tactical Dad on the Tactical Dad podcast, and today is episode 12, and we're going to talk about essential EDC gun gear. Right at the top of that list, or at least towards the top of that list, is an EDC Gun Belt. And if there's anything I know rather well now, it is gun belts, EDC belts, since my company's been selling them for quite some time now. So I've had my hands on a number of different brands, and I've worked with a bunch of different manufacturers, spoken to a bunch of different manufacturers, had so many samples in my hand that I just kind of get it. So I'm going to share with you things to look for in that regard, because if you're going to conceal and carry, then you're going to holster it in the waist, outside the waist, either one. You need a belt that's going to be durable, that's going to be rigid, stiff enough, but yet comfortable enough to handle that weight and a firearm, maybe even a magazine. If you're going to go tactical shooting, you're going to go competitive shooting, you're going to wear a belt. Very likely you're going to wear a belt. So it becomes quite evident and important that you need a gun belt that is fit and designed for the situations and fits well. So like big name brands out there that are in this particular space, you've got Core Essentials, you've got Next Belt, sort of the two that come to mind, and quality belts, extremely good belts, great companies, do great gear. And now we also have Second Amen, which is a brand of Charter Tactical. And before I get into showing you ours, because obviously my view is going to be a little biased since I own I'm one of the owners of this company. So, but before I show that, essentials of a EDC gun belt, and let's just go through that because there's so many companies that check the box. So, depending on your personal preference, you got a bunch of different options. But I would certainly, there are some out there that I've ordered on Amazon just to test and check, and because that's what you do when, market research of a product. You buy other people's stuff, you try to learn about it. So I've had a bunch of different company samples as well. I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to point out any names or call some brands out, because I don't think morally is just not the right thing to do. But let them do them and I'll do me. But I have learned along the way there are things you need to look out for, and the top of the list is its stiffness and its rigid. Is it rigid enough? Is it stiff enough to hold the load of a weapon, heavy duty tools? It's also to be a tool belt. These things. So is it rigid and stiff enough and strong enough to handle that? Because a lot of belts fold over, a lot of the leather ones as well over time, and some right off the bat. And depending on if you're going with a nylon one, so first make that choice. Do you want to go leather or nylon? I'd go nylon. I've got both, but I'd go nylon. I don't know, that's just preferable to me, but you do you. Just choose that, leather, nylon, and then you want to make sure that it doesn't fold over very easily. Some will right off the bat. That just means that they don't have a high enough denier count. That's one of the main elements of your gun belt is what denier is it, and the higher the denier, what you can count on is it being a stronger, more rigid, stiff belt. You can go too high, and in my opinion, there are some companies that sell a very expensive belt. It's very stiff, it's very rigid, it's gonna last forever, made out of top ballistic nylon. But it is so stiff that it is not comfortable at all. Now I get these things are not gonna be the most comfortable belts because that's not what they're designed for. But there's a point, so when you start looking at belts that are 1,000 denier, 1,200 denier, that's a little too much. It doesn't need to be that much. You look at belts that are 200, 300 denier. 200, 250 denier they're not really, they're quite strong, but they'll still fold and I should really have one. this one, this is our heavy duty one, so I can't make it bend, but if you go to the YouTube of this podcast, you'll see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bend it. Maybe this might be a better way of displaying it. I'm trying to bend it over, and you can see like it doesn't fold over like at all, and I am putting some strength onto that. So they shouldn't do that. You got 250 denier. That's going to be quite easy to fold over. When you start getting to 300, it gets a little stiffer. 350 is a little more high strength. It'll fold over, just not super easily. So that could hold like a small firearm. It's not going to be able to hold all your gear, but you could carry with that. But when the real sweet spot is about 600 to 600 to 800 denier. That's like, it's super strong and stiff, very rigid, but not too much to where it affects the comfort. It's also as comfortable as you're going to get for that strong of a belt. So like you're getting the best of the lasting of it over time, as well as, you know, being able to get in and out of your truck or your car, sit down, and it not dig into your stomach or your sides too much to where it hurts a lot. So that's the number one thing to look for with your EDC gun belt is the denier. Make sure you find something that is between 600 and 800 denier, and you'll be solid. The other element I would look for is the width of the belt, anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5. 1.5 is like an industry standard, but more than that is, which you can get more than that, it just gets difficult to get through belt loops. Women have almost no chance of making that work, because women's pants, typically the belt loops are smaller than men, so like that makes it really difficult there. 1.3, super helpful for women and most men. There are some holsters that will struggle, they might move around a little bit, but like across the board on a macro level, it's still pretty good. Less than 1.3 and it's no good. It gets more annoying than anything. So 1.3 to 1.5 inch width, 4mm thick, and 600 to 800 denier. That's the sweet spot for your EDC gun belt. That's all from me today. I'll speak to you next time.